Now, today, of course, marks the 40th anniversary of the overthrowing of the Shah in Iran, the end of a dynasty that lasted some 2,500 years. The final months of his rule and the early years of the Islamic Republic of Iran was a moment of uncertainty, a time of violence, but also one during which writing and photography saw a unique level of freedom. To look at that aspect of the revolution, we're joined by an artist who was born in Tehran in 1981 and who has a new book out looking at the role of art in the revolution. Street, a revolution through books. Miss Hannah Darabi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can I start by asking you about these books that were seen as so unique and controversial that they had to be banned? What's included in them?
Actually, the project consists of two types of book collection. The first one is political books. They are known as white covers. That's this part of the collection that was actually banned before the revolution, because normally the texts are written or translated by political groups or group of Iranian students. They were very active Iranian students all over the world, and there were a diversity of ideas. I mean, they were communist, Marxist, and even in Islamist movements, they were different kinds of thinking. So what was interesting that at that time there was this mass production of these books, and they were banned. But by the revolution at 1979, these books, they were hidden in the mountain even, and by the revolution they come out of the mountain and you can find them suddenly sold in the streets of Tehran, especially this street, Enqilab Street. And then the other part of the collection is photo books. Photo books are mostly from after 1979, and for me it's very important because if we can say that political books they were important to make this revolution happen, photo books is from now on they are in this process of making this history.
And recording it and recording
Yes.
what took happen. So the political books banned before the revolution, then allowed into the light, but I believe cracked down on again. The whole proficiency of ideas coming out in Iran was quite short-lived.
Yes, it was a very short moment. It was about like 8 or 9 months. We say then there's an Iranian term, a spring of liberty. So yes, when at the time that the government settled, little by little other political parties disappeared, and then the books disappeared with them. So. And even I think there was this culture of doing books and communicating through books that disappeared with them, that we can't, for example, well, I think the time has changed now. We have blogs and internet is another kind of communication.
Era again. But you were born in 1981, so how did you get interested in these books? And indeed, how did you go about collecting them if they were banned?
Actually, photo books, it's kind of tricky because they are not banned. I mean, all the books of my collection they were gathered from used bookshops in Tehran, so they are still there. So I don't know if they are banned.
They're not newly published, but
they are not.
around.
Yes, I mean, maybe photo books, it's a very funny story because when I started doing this project, I had a very wrong idea that we didn't make any photo books in Iran. Then I found my first book of the collection, and that was kind of a very special moment for me because I realized that actually there is this movement of photo books after the revolution, and the documentary photography, which became a very important visual language at that time. And then when I was doing that, communicating with the bookshop owners, one of them started to talk about these white covers. And they are very essential to this project because there is this historic moment, and this body of the project that it can tell us how diverse it was, the exchange of the ideas at that time.
Yeah, fascinating. And why for you is the photography, is the image so important to catalogue, to keep a record of?
Because I think in these books we have now there is this official story of the revolution. These books, for me, they contain this archive of images that could at the same time reveal that moments of the revolution that are forgotten or erased or even not taken seriously. And which is interesting is we can, that's what I did at the end of the project, that this artistic gesture to reappropriate my own collection and especially put in light all those pictures that are not, we don't communicate today a revolution through those images. But for me, it was important to make them
Indeed, I believe
appear.
Reconstructions was personal work. That's how you entitled it, looking at new pictures and archive footage. But, you know, give me an example of one of the images then that might have surprised you, having grown up in the country. Was there something you didn't know?
I mean, it's a very complex history, and the generation of my parents, they are not able to talk about it. It's not just my parents. I spoke with lots of friends, and it's pretty common. And for example, there was this image of the importance of the role of women in the Iranian Revolution, and that's the image that's not very common these days. And we know there is this documentary film made by two French filmmakers that we know that there was for example, a demonstration the first 8th March after the revolution. But for me, it was very important to find that, and I was surprised to see, for example, that there was a whole demonstration, and there was this magazine that we showed in the exhibition Tehran Musawwar, that they did a special number on 8th March, and we can see lots of images of women protesting. So
maybe an easier way, even in the pictures, like letting people put a lot of thoughts in words that they're maybe not getting out through pictures. But Ms. Darabi, you now live in Paris, if I understand correctly. Why is that? Why have you based yourself here and not in your home country, which is the source of so much of your work?
I think it was just started because I wanted to study in France at the beginning, and then a little bit of life happened, and I found work and everything. But this distance, actually, this is interesting because now I work on subjects from my own country, which I couldn't work when I was there. For example, I did a series about Tehran. I think this geographical distance helped me to go through to these subjects. For example, when you live in Tehran or maybe you live in Iran, there are those subjects that you don't want to talk about it because you're saturated by it in everyday life. And as the revolution, I mean, maybe it's not that much of actuality if you live in Iran, but from distance it becomes something that for me it was an unfinished story, and I wanted to just finish it.
I guess, yeah, and understand it fully. But it is absolutely fascinating, Ms. Hannah Darabi. Thanks so much for coming in
Thank you.
to speak to us for Perspective.